Hey everyone and welcome back to the channel. So, how do you know if you're dealing with a P0230 issue? The symptoms are usually pretty obvious and hard to ignore. The most common one is a no-start condition. You'll hit the start button, the engine might crank over, but it just won't fire up. You might not even hear that familiar, faint humming sound of the fuel pump priming when you first attach the lanyard. The other major symptom is a sudden engine shutdown while you're out on the water. 1 minute you're cruising along, the next, your engine cuts out for no apparent reason and refuses to restart. It's not just annoying. It can be a serious safety issue depending on where you are. So, if you're experiencing either of these, it's time to roll up your sleeves and do some troubleshooting. Alright, let's get into the nitty-gritty of diagnosing this P0230 code. The first and easiest thing to check is your battery. A weak or dying battery can cause all sorts of strange electrical gremlins, including power supply issues to the fuel pump. Make sure your battery is fully charged and that the terminals are clean and tight. A simple voltage check should show you well over 12 volts. If the battery checks out, our next stop is the fuel pump relay. This little box is the switch that the ECU uses to turn the pump on and off. You can often find it in the main electrical box. Check the relay for any signs of corrosion or damage. A good trick is to swap it with a known good relay from another circuit, like the starter relay, if they are the same type. If the problem moves or goes away, you've found your bad relay. It's a cheap and easy fix. If the relay isn't the problem, we need to look at the wiring itself. This is where a multimeter becomes your best friend. You'll want to inspect the wiring harness running from the ECU to the fuel pump relay, and from the relay to the fuel pump module. Look for any obvious signs of damage like frayed wires, melted insulation, or corrosion, especially at the connectors. These machines live in a harsh, wet environment, and wiring problems are common. With your multimeter, you can perform a continuity test to make sure there are no breaks in the wires. You'll also want to check for a good ground connection for the circuit. A bad ground can cause just as many problems as a broken power wire. Take your time with this step. A thorough inspection here can save you a lot of headaches later on. Now, let's say you've checked the battery, the relay, and all the wiring, and everything seems perfect. What's left? Unfortunately, this often points to the most expensive part of the equation, the fuel pump module itself. Inside this assembly, there can be internal wiring faults or a complete failure of the pump motor. At this point, the best course of action is to test for power and ground directly at the fuel pump connector when you try to start the engine. If you're getting proper voltage at the connector but the pump isn't running, it's a strong indication that the pump has failed. Replacing the entire fuel pump module is typically the final solution. It's a more involved job, as you have to access the fuel tank, but it will definitively solve the problem if the pump is indeed the source of the P0230 code. So, to recap our troubleshooting journey for code P0230. Start simple. First, verify your battery voltage and connections are solid. Next, inspect and test the fuel pump relay. Try swapping it if possible. After that, meticulously check all the wiring in the primary circuit for breaks, shorts, or corrosion. And finally, if all else fails, test for power at the pump itself. If power is present, but the pump is silent, it's time to replace the fuel pump module. By following these steps, logically, you can pinpoint the exact cause of the fault and get your Yamaha or Sea-Doo back on the water where it belongs. I hope this guide helps you out. If you found this video useful, please hit that like button. Subscribe for more PWC tips and tricks, and drop a comment below if you've ever dealt with this code yourself. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.